Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks or lectures. There are 5 questions for each talk or lecture. For each question, choose the correct answer A, B, C or D. You will hear the talks or lectures only once. Questions 21 to 25.
You will hear a talk about ecotourism, a danger to wildlife.
Ecotourism, a danger to wildlife. This is breakingnewsenglish.com. Ecotourism is a booming business that many tour operators cite as being helpful to nature. Every year, millions of people descend on protected and pristine natural areas to observe rare species. However, a new report casts doubt on the value of this form of tourism. In fact, it suggests that ecotourism is more damaging than helpful to nature. Details are in a report published in the journal Trends in Ecology and Evolution. Researchers believe tourists are disrupting animals in their natural habitat. They pointed to a recent event where sea turtles in Costa Rica had problems laying their eggs because of the hordes of tourists who had congregated to watch the turtles' nesting habits. The report says that ecotourism is making animals bolder and that this could endanger the animals. A regular human presence might make animals tamer and less cautious about other animals around them, and this could put them at risk of being attacked by their natural threats. Then they will suffer higher mortality when they encounter real predators, the report says. It added, when animals interact in benign ways with humans, they may let down their guard. The report said it was essential to develop a more comprehensive understanding of how different species in different situations respond to human visitation, and under what precise conditions human exposure might put them at risk.
Questions 26 to 30.
You will hear a talk about skin lightening cream.
People told to avoid skin lightening creams. This is breakingnewsenglish.com. An association of local governments in the UK, called the LGA, has warned consumers about the use of some skin lightening creams. The LGA discovered that some of the whitening cosmetics they tested contained banned ingredients and were thus illegal. However, they were available for purchase in UK stores. An LGA spokesperson said these ingredients could pose a serious threat to consumers' health. He said there has been an increase in the number of users experiencing health problems after using the creams. These include seizures, rashes, and scarring. The spokesperson said the creams could increase the risk of skin cancer and liver and kidney damage. The global skin lightening industry is booming. In 2017, it was valued at an estimated $4.8 billion and is forecast to nearly double to around $8.9 billion in the next decade. Many people use it to reduce the darkness of the color of their skin. The LGA warned that rogue retailers were selling illegal skin lightening lotions on which the label incorrectly listed the ingredients and omitted the illegal substances. The LGA said some illegal ingredients acted like paint stripper and could burn off the top layer of skin. It said, "Skin creams containing banned ingredients are very dangerous and could seriously damage your health, scar you for life, and even kill you, so they should be avoided at all costs."
Questions 31 to 35.
You will hear a talk about having children.
Parents happier after their children leave home. This is breakingnewsenglish.com. Many of us believe that having children is the key to happiness and a perfect family life. Naturally, this idealistic image is true for some, but researchers say that in reality, children make us happiest when they fly the nest, when they have grown up and left home. Researchers in Germany looked at data from a survey of 55,000 over 50-year-olds living in Europe. The survey respondents were quizzed about their emotional well-being. The researchers discovered that most parents were happier with life after their offspring had left home and started making their own way in life. Researchers say this could be because raising children creates financial worry, stress, fatigue, and anxiety. The research was led by Christoph Becker at Heidelberg University. He concluded that a big reason for parents being happiest when their children leave home is that the tables are turned and the children provide more support to their parents. He said parents whose children no longer live with them suffer from fewer symptoms of depression and have a more positive outlook on life. Regarding the role reversal in providing support, Mr. Becker said, "Children's roles as caregivers, providers of financial support, or simply as a means of social contact might outweigh the negative aspects of parenthood." He added that maintaining family relationships may stave off loneliness in aging parents.
That is the end of part 3. Now, you will have 7 minutes to transfer your answers to an answer sheet.
Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks, lectures or conversations. The talks, lectures or conversations will not be repeated. There are 5 questions for each talk, lecture or conversation. For each question, choose the right answer. A, B, C or D. Questions 21 to 25 refer to the following professor's lecture. First, take some time to read the questions 21 to 25.
Remember, you can't see this heat. The sun, a toaster, a dryer, all these things use radiation. Have you ever warmed your hands by a fire? Even this is radiation.
Questions 26 to 30 refer to the following conversation. First, take some time to read the questions 26 to 30. Questions 31 to 35 refer to the following professor's lecture. First, take some time to read the questions 31 to 35.
People are working to an older age in Britain. The number of 70 to 74-year-old people who work has doubled in the past decade. Around 10% of British people in their early 70s are now working. It is the highest figure since records began. The British government says just over 250,000 70 to 74-year-olds currently have jobs. In 2005, there were around 100,000 of them. The government said people are working to an older age and are deciding to retire later. A Labour Union spokesperson said the reason for people working in their old age is because retirement pensions in Britain are becoming more difficult to live on. Many older people have to work and delay retirement to be able to survive. Employment spokesman Francis O'Grady said, "The last decade has seen big changes in the labour market, with far more people working beyond retirement age. While there are plenty who enjoy remaining in work, many need to earn extra cash because they cannot afford to retire." He added that, "We need decent jobs and pensions for all so that people can make a genuine choice about whether they remain in work." A spokesman for small businesses, John Allen, said more older people were starting their own businesses. He said, "More and more older people are deciding on a career change later in life and are starting up their own businesses, pursuing something they may have dreamed of doing for years."
That is the end of part 2. Now turn to part 3. You will hear 3 different talks or lectures. In each talk or lecture there are 5 questions. For each question, choose the correct answer A, B, C or D. You will hear the talks or lectures only once. Now open your questions paper and look at talk or lecture 1. You now have 35 seconds to look through the questions and the options in each question. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully.
Dolls have always fascinated me, and that's why, 5 years ago, I was delighted to be offered the job of running a doll museum. Dolls have existed for thousands of years, and the earliest dolls we know about were found in graves in ancient Egypt. I only wish we could get 1 or 2 for our museum, but we haven't unfortunately got anything as old as that in the museum. All the same, we have got examples from Europe from the 12th century, but my favourite early dolls are actually from the 17th century. They interest me not just because they are early, or fairly early, but also because of the clothes they're wearing. They have their original clothes, and from them we know what the owners wore, since dolls in those days were always dressed like their owners. They were made of the only material readily available for things like this at the time, solid wood, and they were painted in great detail. In fact, on the best examples, like the ones in the museum, the detail includes the 17th century makeup. Dolls like these were very expensive then, and only the very rich could afford them. These days, they're popular with collectors, and if you want one today, you have to pay anything up to £10,000 for a doll in perfect condition from this time. By the way, what makes them so valuable is that, as far as a collector is concerned, a doll is only worth collecting if it is in perfect condition, and that means having the original clothes. Doll collecting has become very fashionable since the museum opened, with people interested in dolls from every period, including later dolls. There's great interest in 19th century examples, when dolls were no longer made of wood, but began to have soft bodies and real hair. They were very delicate, and few have survived, meaning such a doll would be worth about £2,000, perhaps a bit more. Later, in the 19th century, you could often take off the doll's hair. If you can often see the maker's name underneath. And of course, the right one increases a doll's value. There was a really big change in dolls at the beginning of the 20th century. In the museum, we have one of the earliest examples, from about 1909, of a doll that's a model of a baby. Previously, all dolls, the earlier ones, were little adults.
Now open your question paper and look at talk or lecture 2. You now have 35 seconds to look through the questions and the options in each question. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully.
Hello, I'm Stephen Mills. I will travel with you on the Tiger Tour to India, but I'm not your tour guide. I work as an artist, and I'm going to take some photographs of tigers so that I can use them when I paint some pictures later. An expert guide will join the group when we arrive in India, but I'm leading the group until then. We leave London on the 6th of November, arriving in India the following day. It's a good time of year to visit the wildlife park where the tigers live. The rainy season finishes in October, and later in the year, the park gets more crowded and the tigers become shy. We'll spend 10 days in the wildlife park. There are 20 other types of animal and 300 types of bird to see, as well as tigers. There are 18 of us all together, and everything is organized for our comfort by the tour company. For example, although we're in the jungle, we won't have to sleep in tents. The hotels where we'll stay are all very comfortable. To be sure of seeing tigers, we'll stay in 2 different parts of the wildlife park. We'll spend 3 days in the north, where we'll travel around in an open truck, and the rest of the time in the south, where we'll travel around on elephants. That should be fun. On the way back to London, we have dinner and 1 night's bed and breakfast in the Indian capital, Delhi. There you can either go sightseeing or go shopping, whichever you prefer. But please note that lunch is not provided on our day of departure, as the plane leaves at 2 in the afternoon. Now, if there are any questions, I'd like...
Now open your question paper and look at talk or lecture 3. You now have 35 seconds to look through the questions and the options in each question. Now we are ready to start. Listen carefully.
For the second in our series about locally run businesses, we meet Simon Winridge, co-founder of the hugely successful Winridge Forest Railway Park. Welcome, Simon. Now, perhaps you can begin by telling us a little bit about how it all started.
Well, during the 1970s, my wife Liz and I had just acquired 80 acres of sheep farming land, and we decided to settle down and have children. Pretty soon we had a daughter, Sarah, and a son, Duncan. The place was wonderful for the kids. They particularly loved trains and gradually built up an enormous network of miniature railway track. I began to develop larger scale models of locomotives, but we didn't think anything more of it until I went on a trip to a theme park near Birmingham and decided we could do a much better job. So we set up a small one ourselves, based on the miniature railway, and we opened to the public for just a month that year, 1984, in July, our driest month, because our children said they didn't want our guests to have a miserable wet visit. I dealt with park business and Liz carried on with the farm work. It soon became clear that we were onto a winner. We began to extend the railway track and lay it among more interesting landscape by planting trees, which in turn attracted more wildlife, and by making cuttings through the rock. Nowadays, we're open all year round, and we're pleased to say that Wimridge is one of the most popular visitor attractions in the area, with 50,000 visitors a year. 1.5 million people have been through our doors since we opened.
That is the end of part 3. Now you have 5 minutes to check your answers and transfer your answers onto the answer sheet.
Part 3. Questions 21 to 35. In this part, you will hear 3 talks or lectures. There are 5 questions for each talk or lecture. For each question, choose the correct answer A, B, C or D. You will hear the talks or lectures only once. Questions 21 to 25.
You will hear a talk about timeouts.
Giving children time outs won't harm them. This is breakingnewsenglish.com. There is good news for parents who are in 2 minds about the merits of using time outs as a form of punishment. Research from the University of Cambridge says there is evidence to show timeouts can be an effective discipline strategy for children aged between 2 and 8 years. Researchers say parents do not need to fret about their parenting skills if they give timeouts to misbehaving children, as they do not harm children's mental well-being or their relationship with their parents. In an 8-year study, researchers compared